Hey everybody, welcome back to our neck of the woods. So today's video, we have finally got some upgrades for the truck to finish it off to get it perfect for how I want it to look. And we also have some upgrades for the 1LE. So come on inside, let me show you what we got and what we're gonna do today. All right, so first up on the truck, I have always wanted to turn the truck into a night edition package. Unfortunately, when we bought it, the night editions are just a hell of a lot more expensive than what we got here, which is just a regular tradesman, which is kind of like the base model, but it's not a bad package because the 2021 tradesman base model has a whole bunch of extra upgrades that the older ones didn't, like push button start and the LCD display in the middle, where it's a lot better looking than on the older ones. And overall, it's just a really better looking truck with like electronics and stuff like that. The only thing that's not better looking is I can't stand chrome. So I absolutely hate all of this chrome. Painting chrome is a big hard thing to do, and if you look at the picture right here, you can see that the night edition, they basically color match everything. So color match bumper, no chrome here, no chrome here. And then again on the night package, they've got these blacked out badges, which we've already purchased. So we already have pretty much this thing kind of looking like a night package with everything blacked out up in here, except for the chrome and then the bumpers. And I'm sure you guys have noticed in the past in the garage, I've had blue bumpers sitting in there for over like 2 years or almost like a year now. And that's because stripping down a bumper that has paint on it is just a hell of a lot easier than trying to paint chrome. You can't get that chrome off of a metal bumper, so it's really, really difficult. So I've handed those bumpers over to my buddy John. He is painting them currently, and I think they're actually finished today, that they are now painted color matched to the white of the truck. And that only leaves us two things then to figure out how long I can go driving around without the plastic chrome up here, which is easy to paint, and down here, because he'll need those for a few days, and basically the whole front of the truck will be ripped apart. And I don't even know if that's road legal really, but that will be the only thing left to do painting wise to get this thing to look like a night package. And then the other thing is obviously the wheels and tires. Now, as for the wheels and tires, I absolutely got a steal of a deal on a guy who is selling 3,500 wheels off of his truck. And they were brand new, 100 miles on them, and they even came with the sensors. So it was a deal that I could not pass up. He was local, like 20 minutes less to go pick him up. It was just an awesome deal, awesome price. And the beauty about these ones is, on older night packages, they always use a 20-inch wheel, but on the older ones, they use a 20-inch wheel with these plastic inserts around each spoke, which is very hard to change the color if you don't get a black one. In fact, I just don't want 20s. I don't think 20s look good on a truck when you're upgrading to a bigger tire. And to me, on most trucks, you should have a 35-inch tire height-wise anyway. So these wheels are only 18 inches, so they're the factory size. So if I wanted, I could have just swapped out the tires, kept these ones, got rid of these ugly plastic chrome hubcap type wheels, and could have just put these wheels on and it would have been fine. But his wheels, if you noticed in about 2 videos ago, were sitting in the garage. They were a just a shiny gloss aluminum. So I took them to a powder coater and we had them stripped with their like kind of finish or clear coat that was on them. And we had them night edition packaged, painted satin black. And they look, again, almost just like the older night editions that were 20 inches. But in between each one of these spokes, there is no plastic. This is all just raw aluminum here. So very easy to powder coat. Give me that satin black color. And they're gonna look freaking awesome because, again, they're an 18, but we got a 35-inch tire to go with them. Now, if you excuse these wheels and tires that I'll tell you about in a second that are sitting on top of them, the 35s that we ended up finding, they were also used, hell of a deal. They only have a few millimeters of tread that's actually gone and the manufacturer date on these is actually just a few months old. In fact, if you don't know what the manufacturer dates are on tires, which you always should look at, because you don't want to get a used or a brand new set of tires and thinking it's a good deal, but the tires have been sitting around for years on end. They can dry rot, crack, etc. And companies like Tire Rack, who obviously are in the business to selling tires, they tell you that you should replace your tires every 6 years. Well, whether or not that's true, I'll let you decide that. But if you look at this little tiny date right here, that code right there, this little oval circle that you see, and this one happens to be 3921. What that means is this tire was manufactured in the 39th week of the year, which is like the end of September in 2021. So again, these tires are just a few months old. Heck of a deal that I got on them. But the only thing is they're not a true 35. Usually when you get a 33, 35, 37, they're not a true like 35. They're usually like a half of an inch shy. And a lot of times you can't find them in a good width. Like they either come in like 11.5 or 12.5 width. To me, I think that's too wide. Things can rub, and when you live in a winter state, you can get rubbing on like the inner sway bar, especially like up in the front, because when you go to turn the wheel, the 35 by 12.5 is so wide, you can end up rubbing on stuff up in here again, especially like the sway bar, like right in here, because the 12.5 inch wide wheel is like 318 millimeters. So by sticking with traditional sizes, these are a 285 75 17. So 285 is obviously a lot narrower than a 318, so we won't rub as much. And being in a winter state, skinnier tires cut through snow and slush a little bit easier than a wider tire that can ride on top of snow and slush, which can be dangerous. And these factory tires are only 275, so it's not like we're getting crazy bigger width-wise, but obviously we're going to go up about 2 inches total on the height. But as for winter, I will be obviously keeping these because the tire sensors are going to be in there. The tread is still great, and we can still beat up on these chrome plastic than our beautiful, just fresh powder coated satin that we don't really want the salt to diminish it or hurt it in any way. So hopefully within a day or so, this thing will be looking like a night edition package. We got wheels, tires, bumpers, and the only other thing in this video, which I've already pre-recorded for you guys, is I smashed my factory mirror here. Me and another driver clipped each other going down the road. Neither one of us were over the center line, but as you can see, these mirrors stick out so dang far. The mirrors just barely clipped each other. I shattered his, he shattered mine. No one was really at fault because we were not over the center line. It's just because both of our mirrors were heavy duty trucks and they stuck out so far. So we basically just, I'll replace mine, you replace yours. It's an even swap. No one was really at fault. So I'll show you how I did that one, because that mirror there is actually off of a 4th gen while I have a 5th gen. So the electronics were a little bit different, but you guys will see that in a minute and about what I'm talking about. And then as for these wheels and tires that you see here, these are the upgrade going on the Camaro ZL1 1LE. These are Apex wheels, and the reason why I got these is because I was just curious. One, I wanted an extra set of wheels because those factory 3Rs are going to burn up very fast. They only last about 3,000 miles. I wanted to put better street tires on them, but then I wanted an extra set of like racing wheels. And the beauty about these Apexes are, number one, they're 18 inches in diameter. So we're going down from the factory 19. And even though these are not forged like the factory ones, these are actually still lighter than the forged 19s. But the beauty is they're basically the exact same size and everything, width-wise and offset as the factory ones. The fronts are an 11 by 7 offset. The rears are a 12 by 41 offset. So the only difference is the front being a 7 offset. The factory ones are an 11 offset. So we're getting 4 millimeters further out on each side than the factory wheels. And I think Apex did that that just to get a little bit more track in the front. So 8mm total is going to be freaking awesome. That they'll stick out just a hair more, but the factory wheels on there sit so perfectly within the body, being like even with the fenders, that it looks just freaking awesome. But I do not mind these going out just 4mm more in the front, because it could use a little bit more poke, and I guess it will handle just that much better. But the reason why these were an absolute steal also is because, as you can see, they basically have racing slicks on them. So these are coming with the Hoosier A7, basically racing slicks, and I believe the A7 basically stands for like autocross. So I'm not exactly sure why he put autocross tires on a road car, because the R7 is more of a road tire. So they're both slicks, but the autocross will get up to temperature a heck of a lot faster, but then they'll also wear off a heck of a lot faster than the R7. So, but that's not bad for doing like time trials or just doing track days where you're only out for like 20 minutes at a time. It's not like you're gonna be racing on a set of A7s or even the R7s for like hours on end. So I did not mind that they came with the A7s. And what's cool about these A7s, he stepped up from the factory 305 in the front and 325 in the rear to a 315 and 335. So we're 10mm more tire in the front and the rear. We are still gaining weight or losing weight on these, both tire and wheel wise. And we're also getting a hell of a lot more traction because of obviously their slicks, and we're obviously getting a little bit lower of a height. So these things are going to hopefully make the car handle a hell of a lot better, because we're going down in size, we're going down in weight, which rotational weight is a big thing on a track car. We're going to be getting a hell of a lot better braking, a lot better, nimbler steering. We actually gain a little bit of horsepower because you're losing that rotational weight, so that the drivetrain loss isn't as much. And then obviously, because you're on a slick tire, that means that our braking can happen a hell of a lot later. And he only used these for one day at Mid-Ohio for about 1 hour or 3 track sessions. So he was able to knock off 3 seconds, he said, at Mid-Ohio, and he was able to brake like 200 feet later. So that also means that when we put these on, we are also going to have to finally upgrade the brake pads, because that much sticky rubber is going to really probably hurt those factory pads that are just not going to be up to the task that aftermarket racing pads can be, where they can handle like say 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. The factory ones just aren't going to cut that. So let's get all these bad boys mounted and balanced. The reason why the slicks are in here though is because he did not put the factory sensors in there. And the factory sensors on the Camaro, they come with a tire pressure monitoring, obviously, but they also come with a heat sensor. And I want those heat sensors in those tires so that we can utilize knowing that, hey, the tires are too hot and greasy, we need to back off. Obviously, I'll be able to feel that actually driving the car, but I also want to see it on the dash too, that if they go from normal temperature up to hot, then that may be an indicator to start backing off. So I bought some sensors, so we're gonna throw these in these tires, get them remounted and balanced, and then obviously mount and balance the new truck tires. So let's go to the shop real quick, let's get it done, and let's get back here, and then there's a few more things I wanna show you. The only thing is, this is the 4th gen mirror, exactly the same as the 5th gen, except they decided to switch all the wire plugs on us. So what I have to do is remove all of the wires out of this connector, which this connector is the same on the 5th gen, but the wires are all mixed up. So we have to look at a diagram, pull out all of the pins and switch the wires into a different spot so that all of our lights and the heated mirror and everything work. So kind of a pain in the butt, don't know why the engineers did that. But this one doesn't have crazy amount of functions that I probably need every single wire for. All it has is like a daytime running light, a floodlight when you open up the door to shine on the ground, and the heated mirror itself, and then of course the motor that actually spins it. So there's only really 4 things in here. So unlike other mirrors, there's probably more stuff in these wires that I'm not going to be able to use, like an indicator that someone's coming up next to you. Again, why the engineers had to switch that around, I don't know, but we got to take the door apart, we got to remove the old one, and then we got to put this one in. I finally got one of these kits off of Amazon, and link will be down below if you guys are curious. This is an 82-piece kit and it's pin connector removal tools. So 82 different types of pins that you can think of. So we gotta pull those wires out of those connectors, and we've gotta find the right pin to slide in there to release the pressure so that the wire still connected to the metal piece can come out of the plastic super easy. And I've done it in the before, trying to just look for any old thing around the house, but it's nice to have 82 freaking pieces now that we'll have in this nice little pouch, that if I ever need to remove a pin connector on anything, it's probably in this kit. So that's freaking awesome. All right, so first off on this door card, this section right here, this little guy just pops right off, just with some connectors here, just pull. And then there's some pop rivety type pins here. I don't even know how strong they are because that's a plastic pin right there. And that is a plastic 15 torque screw, but they're literally only in like finger tight. You don't even need the ratchet. You can literally just push this on, and these plastics just unscrew right out of this connector piece, and then all those are out. And then it looks like we might have a hidden fastener right behind here, so we have to remove this little flap and take that off, and then I think we can pop the whole door card out. We'll just have to see how many connectors there are and make sure there's no more hidden fasteners. All right, so flathead behind that, and then it looks like a Phillips head. Big old screw. This is probably the only thing actually holding this door on. And then it looks like the whole door card you just have to pick up. And there you go. Then it swings right out. So let's go ahead and follow these two down. Remove both of those, and uh-oh, there's a third plug on this one, and there's only two on the other one. So maybe we won't get the 5th gen actually installed to where absolutely everything works. But let's take it off and let's see what actually happens. All right, so just got the new mirror bolted on. There's the damage that happened in the drive-by. That all snapped and broke out. And then the main mirror cracked all up in here. And of course, because it's a heated mirror, it obviously was not working last winter, and this guy bolts on, like I said, 100%, looks exactly the same. So no issues with the look. Now we just got to figure out why the function may be different, and figure out why we do not have a green plug installed with this one. So we'll have to see what works and what doesn't, but at least for the diagram that I found online, we have to change out all these pin connectors and at least get the wires in the right spot. And then worst case scenario, we'll lose maybe a function. But as you can see, this one does have heated mirror element, so I won't be able to test that today. But as long as I can get kind of a daytime running and turn signal, and as long as I can get that guy down there to function and work as a floodlight, or you know, whatever they call that type of light, I'll be happy. But let's swap over the pins real quick and let's see what works and what doesn't. All right, so this may take a little bit because the way the diagram is online, these are people with the 4th gen trying to put the 5th gen mirrors on, and I'm having to do the opposite. And it does say down on here the 1925 mirror green connector is not used, so they don't even have a spot on that module to plug into. So you still should be able to move the mirror function and have the lights work, but we're just having to go backwards. So let's just see what pin connector I need and see if we can reverse this diagram and see if we can get this thing to actually function. All right, so I still haven't started, but I have figured out that the wires are not just gonna get moved within each plug. Some of these wires have to go over to this connector, and some of these have to go over to this connector. So there are 12 wires in between this black and white, and on my old one, there are 12 wires in between the black and white. So all of them need moved. Some stay within the same connector, but some get moved over. I'm not going to tell you guys how to do this, because if it ends up frying something and that module breaks, then you're screwed. So do it on your own. But just for the first one, for example, if we're looking at going the opposite way, they would want me to take out pin number 1 on the black and move it over to number 9 on the black. So on this one in particular, it would be moving a green and gray up to number 9, which is replacing a brown and green. So if we go over to this connector, that means that the number 9 pin, I would think, on the black connector, number 9 needs to come down over to number 1. So we're reversing the order here. So there's nothing in number 1 now, but this black and gray is now going down to number 1, which over on here, color-wise, it's currently a green and gray. So hopefully I get this right, or I'm going to fry a module and I got to purchase something else. But this is going to take all day to swap out all 12 of these, but fingers crossed it works out in the end. All right, I will show you this real quick at least. To get the pins out on these ones, you have to remove the white cover. So right here in that little square, there is a pin holding the white onto the black. So you kind of have to use this fork one here to slide in under like that, underneath of the white. That lifts up. And then on the back side here, on that little black circle, you can use one of these little circle ones and push out, and then the white will separate from the black. And now that that's out. And then as you see that silver piece right there, and the 2 silver pieces over there, that's what you actually have to push down, and then you'll slide that out. So to push down on that silver one, you just need kind of one of the sharp little like single ones like that, just to push down on it a little bit, and then with your other hand just pull the wire right out of the black connector, and then the wire's out. And then when you're all done, you obviously slide the white connector back on, clip it in place, and then that's actually super easy to remove these wires from these particular type of connectors. All right, so I just got everything switched over and I did already fire it up. I only have one problem. So if we turn the lights on, I've already put the door card back in. The mirror works. We're vertical, left and right, side to side. Our turn signal works. Everything works. And when we open up the door, our floodlight down here works. The only thing not working is the lights are on right now, and this is not turning on. But if we go over to this side, you can see that we do have kind of like a daytime running light or a night light that's constantly on. But the turn signal works. So the only thing that I found out that was different is the old style light on the side there has 2 connectors, while the new style has 4. So, and if you trace back the wires, it looks like down here, a blue and a white wire with a blue stripe and a white wire with an orange stripe. They actually go over to the green plug over here for the exact same wire. So this green plug must now be supplying the power to this LED light that again is using not only the turn signal but also using like the daytime running light. So I gotta figure out if maybe we can move a pin, but I think because this only has 2 wires in here, if we remove the pin, then that's not gonna work, because obviously I did trace back the wires already on the diagram, and in here is a black wire and a black wire with a gray line on it. So this is obviously like basically your power and your neutral, but what must be happening on the 4th gen is that light is on constantly when you have your headlights on, but then when you turn the turn signal on, it's making it like intermittently flash, as opposed to the new style. It's like 2 different bulbs now. So one supplying the 24/7 power and the other one supplying the turn signal separate. So hence why you got 4 wires versus 2. So I don't think there's a way that I can hook that up or bypass it or find a new pin connector, because then I'll be disabling one and then the other one won't be working. So I'll have to look into the diagram more and see if I can figure out how to work that in somehow. All right, I thought about it real quick. Here's what I think I can do. This outside light here does look different than the factory one, but now this factory one was broke. So what I think I can do is get 2 more of these aftermarket or from the factory. If you get aftermarket one, these can actually, I think, come like smoked. So almost like they're blacked out, kind of like tinted windows. So we can replace this one and we can replace the other one with my generation so that it has the 4 wires. Then as you see, I severed the wires on the factory mirror there. So we can plug the factory 4 wires back in, and the 2 wires off of here for the first 2, that's for the turn signal and a common ground. And then there's probably this orange and white is probably a ground, and like the blue and white is probably like the all-time running light. And then I severed the connection over here for the same orange and blue striped wires. So we would just have to run 2 wires connecting from the bottom of here, run it down through here into the door, and then connect it to these 2, and then plug it back in, and then boom, we'll be good to go. So basically I just have to purchase a new one of these anyway because this one broke, but we might as well get something aftermarket, maybe look a little better, and then basically just connect 2 wires and then we'll be done, and this should work 100% then. All right, so back home, we're gonna start to get these things mounted and balanced. But real quick, I want to take a measurement just to see how high the truck will raise up. Obviously, these are like 2 inches taller of a tire, but you got to split that difference. So really, we should only raise up about 1 inch in the front and 1 inch in the back. And another cool thing about getting this deal on these tires from this guy, not only did they come with the tire pressure monitoring sensors, but they came with brand new lug nuts, never used, and they're blacked out, so they will blend in perfectly. So real quick, we'll take a measurement just to see where we're at before and after. And it looks like we're about 42.5 in the rear and 40 3/4 in the front. So hopefully afterwards we'll go up basically about 1 inch more of real ground clearance. So unlike a lift kit that really only lifts the body up, this is actually going to end up lifting the entire truck because the tires are that much taller. So let's go ahead and get these off and get them on, and let's see how it looks. Now I'm not impacting these on the powder coat or paint that's on the inside of these threads. About halfway on, the paint just stops. So really, I'm just overcoming the paint, and I am stopping shy before this bottoms out so that we can torque it to spec, which is 130 foot-pounds. All right, all set. What are we at now? We're at 43.5 in the back, so I think that's exactly 1 inch. And we are 41.5 in the front, so that is only 3/4 up here, but a full 1 inch in the back. And that could be maybe due to a little bit of tire wear, or the fact that I only pressurized these up to 70 PSI in the front and 75 in the rear. The door jamb, which is what you're supposed to go off of, it says 60 front and 65 rear, but I've been running around on the factory tires for the past year, never adjusted them at all from the manufacturer, from the dealership. They had them pumped up to 80, and because these are E-rated tires, 80 PSI is the max, and 80 PSI is what you want to do for like max towing. I don't obviously put 14,000 pounds in here or like 3,500 pounds in the bed all that often, or 3,100 pounds, whatever it is, all that often. But 70 and 75 is fine because I do tow heavy loads at time, but I don't need to jump up to 80 PSI. So let's do one more tire real quick. Front passenger, and then we'll pull it out and have a look-see. But I do have to wait on the center caps. The center caps that came with these wheels, they are obviously plastic. You can't powder coat plastic, and I didn't feel like spray painting them. And on every single one of these, someone decided to put these wheels face down on the ground, and every one of them are kind of like chewed up in here. So I just got some factory black ones that I don't exactly know what wheels those come on, unless the 20-inch wheels for each night edition for the 4th gen and the 5th gen, if they have the same diameter hole in there. For the 20 as they do for the 18, but they're like 70 or 69.85 millimeter in diameter. So I've got 4 new hubcaps coming in black for these that will slap on here tomorrow. So at least the center cap in there is kind of blacked out, so you can't, or the center of the wheel hub is blacked out, so you can't see that it's missing. but we'll get those on tomorrow. So one more, pull it out, maybe give it a little wash and clean, and then we'll see how this thing looks like. And let's see if we can't get a before. Looking so much better, cleaned up, all shiny. And now for the last piece. Perfect. Well, not the last piece. We still have to wait, obviously, to get the bumpers on. But John has finished painting them. Today's Memorial Day, so happy Memorial Day to everybody. We will go ahead and pick those up later. What I'll probably do is take off the front and rear bumper, drive over there so I don't have to put them in the bed and worry about folding them up and not having them roll around and scratch or anything. So it'll just be easy to try and take off these bumpers, go over there, put like 2 or 3 easy bolts in that are easily accessible, and then come back here and put on all like the trim work and the black guards and the fog lights and all that stuff. We can worry about that later. But so that'll be the last and final step to, again, having this thing look done and looking like a hell of a truck. Oh, and 2 more things car related. This is actually the first time I've actually washed any car with our water softener system. So it is a heck of a lot easier to wash a car with softened water. Even though our water is so hard, we've got about 900 milligrams of sodium per gallon, but it comes off very easily. Obviously, I try to keep it out of the sun as I'm washing and when I dry it, and I'm trying to leave it wet when I'm washing it and keeping it moist so that way things don't get a chance to dry. But any salt water that did kind of end up on the car was easily taken off. And if anyone knows what this stuff is, it originally used to be called Honda polish. Now it's just all called original bike spirits. But this used to be under the name brand Honda. This stuff is freaking awesome. It takes care of anything, tar, bugs, polishing, pre-wash or after wash, kind of keeping everything looking pretty. Stuff works freaking amazing. But again, with crazy hard water, it was super easy to wash for the first time with softened water, but having so much sodium. And then the second thing is, as you guys can tell, we cleaned up the garage for spring cleaning. So we swept the floor, tried to move everything out of the way until we get finished with the window trim and drywalling and sanding and everything. We still have to obviously paint up in here, but we are a little bit closer to having this garage finished, or at least tidied up for the time being. And as soon as I get my mud and tape guy over here to finish and sand that wall, we got to clean all the dust off that wall. Then we can go ahead and paint it. And then I think we're gonna mud the inside of the door jam or window jams that I ended up using drywall on, and then putting trim on, and then this garage will be complete. Except for the floor. We still have to figure out what we're gonna do for the floor. And then again, tidying things up, we went ahead and got a hose roller thing so we can keep that out of the way and looking much nicer with a much better quality real rubber hose. So that's the last 2 updates I got for you guys. So hang tight and I'll be back with the front and rear bumpers. Hey everybody, what's up? So I am on my way to John's right now to pick up my bumpers, and I did go ahead and remove the rear. So I just wanted to show that real quick. Easiest freaking thing in the world. There's 2 15mm bolts right here that come in from the other way. And then if you remove your license plate, there's 2 15mm nuts right here, and then 2 15mm bolts on this side too, again, coming from that back way. Once all 6 of those are off, boom, bumper falls off. And then the only thing you have to do is unplug this wiring harness, which this is a little difficult. There's a yellow safety pin in this red one that you have to remove, and then it slides out, but of course it's dirty and crusty, so it's hard to pull out. And then this one has a red safety pin that's sitting right there that you have to pull back, and then you can pull this one out. And once those 2 are out, the bumper is completely off. So we're gonna go now and pick him up from his house. I will slap the rear on kind of temporarily with just those 6 bolts, because this bumper has a lot of stuff on it. There's wire harnesses, there's plastic trim pieces up above and below. So we got to be real careful as we take it off of this one. This one's actually damaged, so I don't really care about it. I kind of backed into a little baby tree on the property, and we got a little dent right here in this chrome one. So don't care about that, but we got to be real careful as we're taking everything off on this one, and then we're bolting it onto the new one. We got to put it down on like a nice soft surface, because we're gonna have to be sitting down on top of it as we're putting stuff back on. I don't think it's you can put it back on when it's on the truck. So I'm gonna head over there right now. We'll slap on the rear, put the front in the bed of the truck, and we'll wrap it up and keep it safe. But now I don't have to worry about two, I just gotta worry about the one. So I'll be back in a little bit and we'll see how it color matches and see how good everything looks. Well, we're back home safe and sound, and I've just spent the last hour or more trying to get this bumper apart. As you can see, many pieces, and this thing was just an absolute nightmare. I cannot believe I didn't break one of these clips, but every single one of those push connector clips goes in the back or top of this black piece, and you can't take that black piece off of the bumper until you remove that one, because then you expose these torque head bolts. So I have just been struggling trying to get one clip up at a time, putting a screwdriver in between this outer black piece and this inner black piece as they're like popping on out so they don't fall back down and reconnect. But holy crap, they're not accessible. They're all like hidden around corners and stuff. But I just finally got it after a good probably hour and a half. And it probably doesn't do well that it's 80 degrees in here. We need to get that Mr. Cool mini split in here so we can have some air conditioning going. But now, hopefully, this should be relatively easy to just swap over the black thing first, pop it in, put the Torx heads in, and then there's a few bolts that actually hold these mounting brackets to the bumper. So I did not drive home with the bumper installed because I needed all this stuff. But okay, fingers crossed, hopefully I remember the order. We put it all back together, and this rear bumper should be good to go, and we can slap it back on the truck and be done. All right guys, got the rear bumper on last night. Aaron and I were out here till almost dark. Because we had that little bit of an accident where we had that dent right here, the bracket was a little bit bent. So we spent some time with a jack underneath of that bracket and a piece of wood and kind of like manipulating the bumper and pushing it up until it kind of reformed and got the proper placement. But holy crap, does that make that car look so much better. That everything kind of blends in. And I don't know if you guys can tell on camera, there is a difference in the white. I don't know if it's just because John's paint job is so brand new and the truck really is like a year and a half old. It's been washed twice. And one thing that I've noticed is there's absolute tons of rust spots all in the paint, which usually happens from road or railroad tracks when the trucks are getting shipped in or when you're just out driving on the road. And what ends up happening is little pieces of iron get stuck in the clear coat. So the whole truck basically needs a better wash, more taken care of, a clay bar to pull out all of that metal, and then we can polish it up, and then we'll see if there is a huge difference in the white still. But I don't know if it can pick it up on camera, but my truck is definitely like yellow kinda, while that bumper is obviously super like hyper white bright. It's probably just, again, the fact that it's dirty, but we got it on. I think it looks 1,000 times better. Again, not the easiest thing to do at all, especially this upper black piece when you're having to take that off and replace it. I don't know how much that would cost from the manufacturer, but that might almost be worth it if you get a raw bumper and just buy this piece right here and break the one that's on your truck and worry about the back piece that's actually bolted on, because that is a huge pain in the butt. So I still have to get the front bumper on, but I've got to go to work again right now. But there's two more things that showed up that I want to show you real quick. So first thing is, I wasn't sure if these tire pressure monitoring sensors were going to work in those wheels. Even though they're the exact same make and model of sensor, I wasn't sure that if they were going to work without needing reprogrammed or learned, because on the Camaro, it was said that you cannot just put the exact same model and temperature sensor, etc., onto the car and have it work. So you've got to buy one of these little guys that does the relearning procedure. On the Camaro, I've seen it done online. It's very easy. You just go into the infotainment center. This front headlight will turn on, telling you to go to this wheel first. And you simply just go up to it near the sensor, press the button, and the car will beep at you, letting you know that, hey, I just learned that sensor, you're good to go. Then it will go over to the passenger headlight that will turn on, the back brake light, and then the driver back brake light. And you just go to up all 4 and you learn it. And this is what you need to have to do that on the Camaro. And the Camaro uses a special sensor. It's 466 like megahertz, while the truck sensor says that they're only 434 megahertz. But I'm just surprised the Dodge actually worked. I was gonna use that or try to use that because the hertz were different, or I was just gonna buy another one because that thing's only $15. But as soon as I put these wheels on, went out for a test drive, the truck automatically picked them up and the tire pressure monitoring sensors are working. So I don't know why those exist if you just buy another sensor and they're already working, unless those sensors are already activated, but I don't think it goes off the sensor, it goes off of a module in the truck. So that is weird that you can swap different sensors from the same manufacturer onto the truck, no issues, but everyone says the Camaro is gonna be a problem. So with the tire pressure monitoring sensors in there now, and they're also brand new, never used before, we're probably gonna have to use that, again, 466 megahertz relearning tool to get these to actually pick up. So we've gotta do that when we get these wheels on. And the other thing I wanted to show you guys, these finally showed up. Took forever to show up, but the website did say they were like 20 days out or more. These are magnetic racing numbers with my name. No, that is not my real name. And the United States flag on them so that we can put them on both sides. And if we autocross or do stuff, you have to have a visible number on the car. So you have to have something. Usually people just use like painter's tape. But with magnetic, we can remove them super easy. I'll show you where I got them down below. They weren't too expensive as opposed to other companies, but unlike a vinyl sticker that will stay on, and you can end up hurting the paint like around the corners if that sticker stays on there forever, because dirt will want to get trapped in there. And then obviously you'll have an ugly spot on the car where a sticker once was. Those at least are removable after every single track day, so we can wash the car and make it look pretty. But those were 2 updates that I wanted to show you guys real quick. Again, I am off to work, and I will be back with one final video as we get that front bumper on and get an overall look of the truck, and maybe even throw the racing wheels on and look at it on the Camaro and see how much lower in height it got and how much wheel gap there is, since we are going about 0.8 inches smaller of a diameter, and it won't fill that up as much. But I'll be back in a day or 2 and we'll show you guys that as a final step. All right guys, back for a final day. Just got the front bumper off. Holy crap, engineers, I hate you so much. You're so stupid. Bumper's only held on by 8 bolts, and luckily the bolts, number 1, are kind of held in place. I forget what these called, like carriage bolts. That square obviously sticks in the bumper and holds it still while you take the nut off. And there's only 8 of them. But number 1, they put one of those bolts where you can't use a long socket because you hit the frame rail, and you can't use a short socket because the bolt's too freaking long. So good job on that, where you can't get anything up in there to actually take that nut off. And then second, they put this plastic piece on right here that's buried all the way up and under and connected with 100 push connectors, but there's no way to get the front of it off, the front of the bumper, unless you take that off. So you're like ripping and pulling on that piece of plastic because there's no easy way to like unpop rivet it and just take the freaking bumper off by itself. What a pain in the butt. Always this stupidity of engineers that they don't think things through. At least the oil change on this thing is easy, as opposed to the last 1500 that I had. They literally put the oil filter right on top of the front subframe and sway bar. So when you take off the oil filter, you just plaster oil all over everything instead of just draining the oil filter straight down to the ground without hitting every single component. And no, it's not just Ram or Dodge who does stupid stuff like that. It's just unbelievable. But now the painful process of seeing how hard it is to unbolt all this stuff, because that front piece that I bought where the tradesmen did not have the cutouts for the tow hooks, which those tow hooks I did buy aftermarket or after the fact because they didn't come on the tradesmen. That thing like pop rivets into the bumper, so getting it off and not breaking it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But just like on the rear bumper, there's a whole mounting bracket system behind this thing that I got to figure out how to take off and then put it back on in the correct order for the new bumper. So fun times, but engineers, I swear to God. Oh, I am glad to be done with that. Big trucks have big, heavy items, and they are not fun to play around with and put on. So, front bumper is officially on. I have no idea how to get that lower and upper chrome off. Actually, never mind. I did remove the upper chrome one time, but I have no idea how to remove the lower. I was too impatient to get this on and didn't look if there was any like hidden fasteners or anything, but that's what it looks like. I think it looks a hell of a lot better. Again, more of a night edition package, minus that chrome. We'll figure that out one day. Maybe we could even wrap it black or wrap it white, and I don't know. Just something to figure down the road. But again, truck is done. I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Don't feel like pulling the Camaro back out and putting on those wheels and tires. We can save those for another date and time when we actually reset the sensors and we figure out when we're gonna do another track day. So what do you guys think? Does the truck look a hell of a lot better as a night package instead of those nasty chrome wheels, those chrome bumpers? And we've got mirrors that actually work and aren't shattered now. So I'm gonna wrap this up here. Hope you car guys and girls like it. Give a thumbs up if you do. You can hit us up on Neck of the Woods 2020, where Aaron takes some extra pictures and photos of stuff. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Take care.